Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley. So this channel is going to be about reading and reviewing books. Starting so late into January, I figured what I would do was go over the books that I've already read and talk about the books that I want to read. So to start off, we will be going over the books that I DNF'd and then the books that I finished and how I felt about them. So we'll start with the books that I DNF'd. So we'll start with Everything I Never Told You, which is the book that I just read most recently. I ended up giving it 2 stars. It follows the family of a girl named Lydia. Lydia died and they don't know what happened to her. They found her in the river after she went missing one day and they don't know what happened and they're trying to figure it out. The story also kind of chronicles the parents meeting, the parents' childhood, and then the subsequent lives that they had once they met and got married. This really kind of felt like every other my child died, I don't know what to do, our family's breaking up kind of thing. And the writing style was just not really there for me. This kind of story is okay, in my opinion. It can be okay, but the writing has to be a certain way. And this definitely felt kind of lackluster. They come across, I understand that every character or every person deals with grief differently. So not everyone is gonna have the sort of same reaction, but they had like major things happening and it didn't feel like anybody had real emotions about it. So this isn't a spoiler because it happens pretty early on, but the dad ends up sleeping with one of his students and they never talk about it again. Like it happens, he's like, oh, what did I just do? And then he leaves her apartment and then that's kind of it. And it's just, it feels not so great. Said I DNF'd this, I did not finish it, and I got about 100 or so pages in, so I would not recommend this book. It did have pretty good ratings, so maybe if you are not such a stickler about that sort of thing, then you might enjoy it, but it was just not for me. So the next thing I'll move on to is A Shadow of the Fox, which is a... hey Gotham. My camera angle is different. I'm sorry because my cat just knocked over my camera. But anyways, so Shadow of the Fox. There is this ancient scroll that is supposed to grant a wish. The wish was used previously in the past and it kind of destroyed this kingdom. Only a certain person can read this scroll or use the scroll, and the main girl can, and she was raised by monks and kind of hidden away so that no one knew that she had this ability. What I read was okay, and I'll probably give it another chance. So, not really much on that one. So the next book that I DNF'd was The Huntress by Kate Quinn. So this book was it was told from 3 different points of views, but it is set in the 40s after World War II, and it's about the hunt for all of the escaped Nazi-related people. And it follows a detective who is hunting down someone that killed someone in his family, so it's kind of a personal vendetta. So he's hunting her down with the aid of a fellow detective. Another point of view is the huntress herself. Another one would be a girl who we're led to believe the huntress has infiltrated her family and married this girl's dad, and she's slowly realizing that something's not quite right about this woman. It was okay. I've got about 100 pages in or so, and it wasn't grasping for me. It's an interesting concept. The execution was very slow paced. And honestly, if I'm gonna drag myself through hundreds of pages for nothing but one little good plot at some point, that book better say Stephen King on it, or it's gonna be a no. And then my next one would be Storm and Fury by Jennifer Armentrout. I gave this 1 star. Honestly, it felt very like every other bad YA novel. Not to say that YA is a bad genre, but it for one is about gargoyles, which, why? And the gargoyles are like attractive, so like they work and they're paired up alongside humans, and the gargoyles are like the protectors of humans, And when the book starts, I think this is a spin-off series, but when the book starts, the girl is like, her gargoyle comes to help her in the situation that she's in, and he's like beautiful and just like this bad boy that has like blonde hair, and he's so attractive, and it's just gargoyles. That was a hard pass for me. The last book I didn't finish was The Never Tilting World by Rin Kupoko. This book was about a world that was split in two, and then there's allegedly two separate princesses that rule the different worlds. The book had a lot of world building that didn't make any sense. Like, honestly, it felt like we were dropped in the middle of something that we didn't really understand. They used a lot of language that didn't really make any sense, and they didn't explain it. We didn't really know the point of view, like the girl that we were with. It didn't really make any sense. She was some commander or something like that, and no. Sorry. So I didn't finish that one. Yeah, that's the last of the books that I did not finish. So we'll move on to the books that I finished and didn't like. Generally with me, if I'm pretty far into a book and I can tell that I don't like it, I'm pretty good at just putting it down, because I'm not one of those that's gonna struggle through a book if I know I don't like it and I know that it's not gonna get any better for me. I'm just not one of those people, so that's one of the good things. I don't feel inclined to keep reading a book. So we'll go on to the books that I did not really like that I've read so far, and I think it's only a couple. And that would be My Sister, the Serial Killer. I'm just gonna put it in the thing because I can't pronounce it and I don't want to butcher it. This book is about a girl whose sister keeps killing all of her boyfriends. And the sister is kind of the cleanup person. So her sister will kill the boyfriend. She'll get a call. She'll call her sister, our main character, and the main character will come in and clean up after the sister. And this is kind of a repetitive theme along the book, is like her sister does whatever she wants, and then she has to come in, her being the main character, has to come in and kind of clean up the mess. I liked the dynamic between the sister and the main character and the mother. I like the relationships in there, but there were several issues for me. One of them was that the actual issue of the book, which was the killing, was never really talked about. And there's a part where they might be found out. There's several times where they might be found out and nothing ever comes of it. It just felt like honestly, there was so much plot armor that I don't know how I could even read anything, because they were saved through everything. And that feels very bad to me, because that feels like bad writing. It's just you writing a character and then saving them and not having to do anything more about that. The second thing was that the sister, the main character, doesn't really have any sort of personality. We see hints of like backstory about their abusive father and things like that. And I guess you're supposed to just intuitively get that that is why they are the way they are. But you get one backstory about them seeing what happens to their father, and you're supposed to just make this connection that what happened with their father somehow makes her sister a serial killer. And it was just a bit of a stretch, in my opinion. I didn't like it. I didn't get any real character development, and I didn't like that the characters were there reactionarily. It's not like they're actual people. So the main character was only there to react to whatever her sister did, or react to whatever her love interest did. She didn't have her own personality. And that really bothered me, because I feel like there could have been really strong development in the relationships around this idea that she slowly grows out of this, I have to clean up after my family. And I guess the idea was that at the end they get away with everything and the family just is like, goes back to normal and she stays the same for forever. But I just didn't really like that. I don't like no character development in books, because it feels like I can't relate to them. So the things that they're struggling with, I want to struggle with. But if I can't relate to you, or I can't care about you, then I'm not gonna care about the struggles that you go through. And that's just where I was with that book. It was really short, so that was a plus, but it just didn't do it for me. I ended up giving it 2 stars. Its average rating was like a 3.4 on Goodreads, and I've heard a lot of people say good things, and I've watched a lot of videos where people are like, this is a great book, I loved it, and their wrap-ups, but it just didn't do anything for me, and I was not a fan. We'll move on to the ones that I did enjoy. The first one is so just, City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This book follows a girl who goes to live with her aunt, who owns a theater in New York, and it's great. It chronicles from before World War I and beyond, and it's told in the narrative as if she's writing a letter to someone's child that she knew in her life. And it's great. Honestly, the character development was fantastic. I love that the female had this like sexually empowered growth, family that isn't okay with her being sexual, I guess. Like, it's very much like you get married and then you have sex or whatever, and you're impure if you're not, and that's kind of the societal standard at that point. So she kind of realizes that she doesn't really view sex that way, and she grows into this idea that she is a sexual being, and it's fantastic. She kind of, in the end, breaks through all of these societal norms of what women should be like, and she sets the standard for herself that she's gonna live this way her whole life because that's what makes her happy, and she doesn't need to be anybody else. And the story is it's fantastic. The character development is fantastic. The found family aspect is really great because they have falling outs, and some of the family doesn't last, and some of them come in and stay forever, and and some of the characters that she didn't really like in the beginning become, really close to her, and it's just, the whole book is just perfect. I love it so much. I could not recommend it anymore. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Honestly, it's probably a 5-star book for me. I'm just a really low rater because there are certain things that, I kind of took off for, and writing style is one of them. This felt very mediocre. I like very imaginative writing. I like to be able to step into the book and see and smell and just hear everything in the book, and it wasn't really like that. And I very rarely find books that are actually like that. This was just an amazing read, and I could not recommend it anymore. So, whew. Read it. Let's go on to the next one because So my next book that I loved was The Umbrella Academy. This is a graphic novel series that was actually made into a Netflix show last year. And the graphic novels, I read 1 and 2. It was great. If I had not watched the show prior to reading the graphic novels, I probably would have rated this a lot lower than the 3 stars that I gave it, just because the graphic novels start off in their future, and it, like the show does, but it gives a lot less explanation of the children and how they got there and all of that stuff. So I imagine that if you hadn't watched the show, then, or read, and knew anything about this, and you just kind of went in not knowing anything, this would probably be pretty confusing for you. It was funny, it was entertaining. The art style was fantastic. The drawing was fantastic. It was just funny, and it was an enjoyable read. It was quick. I get through graphic novels pretty quickly, so it was a great read. And I would recommend it, but I'd probably tell you to read the show first, or watch the show first, which I never do, or do research before you read it so you're not confused. But it was fantastic. It was a fantastic little read. If you're in a reading slump or something like that, it's a great thing to just get through because it's just great and funny, and it's just nice. And then the last book that I want to talk about is called The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the first installment in the Raven Cycle series. If you have been around BookTube at all, ever, you'll have heard of this book before, but it chronicles the life of several teenagers living in this small town. The small town is supposed to be on a ley line, and it's just magical and mythical and all of that stuff. And it's told from several different point of views. This is a YA novel. It felt very much like a YA novel, but I didn't mind it. The writing was very, standard, easy to read. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It kind of also has a found family aspect. Coincidence? I think not. But it has that found family, and honestly, I loved it. I loved characters. I loved the twists. I loved Gainsey. Honestly, I know that's probably stereotypical, but he's great, and I am excited to read the rest of the series to kind of get more backstory and get more understanding into why Gainsey is the way he is, and Ronan is the way he is, why Adam is the way he is. You kind of get some insight into why Adam's story is written the way it is, but I want more, and I want more Blue, and I want more Gainsey, and I want more of all of it, and I'm just so excited to continue the series. I'm probably gonna look into reading more of those probably in February, because I pretty much have my books lined up. So now, let's talk about the books that I am planning on reading in January, and then you'll get a wrap up to talk about those books at the end of the month. So I am currently reading Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This book is all over BookTube as well. From what I gather, it's a Cinderella retelling, except it has cyborgs in it. I'm excited. I'm not very much into it, so I'm not really sure how I'm gonna like it. Cyborgs are kind of iffy for me, but they're not a no-go, so we'll see how it goes. I plan on reading Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I like Stephen King. Stephen King is one of those authors that I love to hate. He has a brilliant mind, but sometimes his execution is pretty slow. So we'll see if this is one of those books that I end up finishing and loving, or if I just, end up liking and just chalking it up to, good old Stephen King. Pet Sematary is about a town. It's about a family that moves to a small town in Maine, shocker. And behind their property is this cemetery that when animals die, they get buried there and chaos ensues. Hi, Gotham. So yeah, and then that's that. House of Evil is the next book that I plan on reading by John Dean. I'm not really sure how you would characterize House of Evil. It is based on a true story it's a woman and a man who leave their 2 children with this woman, and they go and join the circus. And they come to an agreement that this woman will get paid $20 a week to board these 2 children and take care of them. She has about 7 other kids that are her own, and it chronicles the down spiral that it ultimately ends in one of the girls being murdered. That's not a spoiler because it happens in the beginning and then it's just a retelling, but it's pretty gruesome. I watched a movie that was based on the crime called An American Crime, and it's disturbing. I'm sure I'll like the book. It is told from an investigative standpoint, so that'll be an interesting concept because I really liked the movie, but it was from the 2 girls' point of views. So we'll see how that translates into the investigative standpoint. And then the last book that I plan on reading is 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is one of the 2 duology books from 6 of Crows. I bought this book about maybe 3 years ago, and I picked it up and just didn't ever finish reading it. I've heard fantastic things. It has almost 5 stars on Goodreads as an average. I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, the aesthetic of the book is really what got my eye the first time. It just looks good. So I picked it up and was like, oh, this is cool. The pages are black, and it's just a cool looking book. So I will be reading that and then reviewing those at the end of the month in my end of the month wrap up. I just want to say that if you got to the end of this book, or the end of this video, thank you. I have been a reader for a very long time, and when I discovered BookTube, I was thrilled by the idea of a community of people that wanted to talk about books and all of that. So I'm really excited to join this community, and I hope to grow, and I hope to meet other people that want to talk about books just like I do, and there will be more videos to come. So if you like the video, if you're interested in knowing about the books that I discussed, that I was going to be reading, please subscribe to my channel. And then I think they say you have to click the notification of the little bell thing. I will be linking all of my social medias, my Goodreads, and all of that below. And of course, if you want to comment, make any suggestions or things like that, feel free to. I'm always open to suggestions. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.